Hello, hello.
Hello, John.
How's it going?
The best we could do right now.
At first, I thought you were going to say had the best weekend ever, but that's not what it turned out to be.
Well, it was the best weekend ever, too. I left my phone and computer at home, and I just did my own thing.
Okay, we'll get started here in just a few minutes. Christy had something happening at her school at the last minute, so she's going to try to log on in a bit. But otherwise, we'll proceed with our meeting and our conversation today. So just a couple more minutes. Okay, gang, it is noon and on Monday, July 27th. So welcome. Thanks everyone for getting on the line with us. I certainly hope that everyone is finding these weekly sessions to be useful in terms of information sharing and sort of just getting the word out, recognizing that there are others around the state that are experiencing similar challenges and problems and successes the way that each of you are. And that really is what today's conversation is about. It's about talking about reopening and to discover what it is that you're doing in your program, in your area of the state, what challenges you're still experiencing, what questions you still have, but also what are some of the successes that you've had? What are some of the things that you really are seeking to celebrate and to share with the Head Start community? So that's really going to be the focus of today's conversation. Everyone should have received a copy of 6 basic questions that sort of outline that conversation. And I think today we're just going to sort of go around the state, if you will, and those that are on the call have an opportunity to share what's happening, to question one another, and to support one another. First off, let me give you just a couple of updates about what we're doing at KHSA. I think everyone heard on last week's call and received a subsequent email detailing what our plans are for the annual meeting that was originally scheduled for March, was moved to September, and has now been converted, it will be converted into an online virtual conference. We are speaking with the hotel right now about what the dates for 2021 can be. Thankfully, the hotel, despite the fact that they're getting cancellations from everywhere, when I spoke to them last Monday, they said that they had already received 4 calls from groups that day canceling their meetings for this fall. So they don't necessarily have to be kind to us, but they are. And we're working with them to get new dates in the spring of 2021, of course, with the hope that things will be in a place where we can get together in person. In terms of our 2020 conference and it being online, we're in the process of converting the program that had been built for the in-person meeting into one that can be delivered online. We're looking at dates towards the end of September. We think that will give us enough time working with our speakers and other participants to get them lined up. That gives us about 6 weeks or so to get that lined up and taken care of across the board. We do think it'll be maybe a 2-day, 2.5 day, where there will be different sessions on different days. People will be able to participate, drop in, drop out of the things that they want to partake in. So as we're working with those folks and getting our technology lined out, we'll be letting you know about how that's going to work. The good thing, of course, is that the online will be free. So there won't be any costs associated with that for you or your programs. Let's see, a couple of other things. We've got our awards. Our awards committee has first off been reviewing all of the applications and has been sending in to me their selections. So we'll be putting all of that together today, and then we will be shipping that off to Region 4. The deadline for that is the 29th, has to be postmarked by then. So Myra and her team will be then taking those, examining them, sending them through their own review process with members from Region 4, and then announcing those winners and sending on any that need to be to NHSA. Finally, we are in the process now of creating a new working group. And that working group is going to be focused on bylaws and governance of KHSA. I think as everyone knows, we adopted a strategic plan not too long ago, and the next step in this process is to go in and review the bylaws, other governing documents, financial guidelines, things like that. So we've sent out some invitations today to several members. We're being very purposeful in making sure that we are selecting and inviting members from across the state that are representative of the Head Start family in Kentucky in terms of geography, in terms of program size, in terms of sort of administrative structure, whether it's a community action agency or whether it's a school district. We want to make sure that we're representative of gender and race. We want to make sure that we truly are representing the different experiences that those in Kentucky working in Head Start have. So hopefully more on that information will be coming, but our goal with that group will be to convene our meetings during the fall via Zoom, and then we'll be offering recommendations, if any, to the board of directors at the end of this calendar year for consideration with what those bylaws and structure and things like that need to look like. So I think we're off to a good start on those things. Other than that, I might turn to Sally and see if she has any updates from GOEC and the Head Start Collaboration Office.
Thanks, John. I don't have any updates other than I have been sending out information that I get on reopening, suggestions, questions, complaints, anything like that from any of the other organizations that I'm involved with as soon as I get those. So if for some reason you think there's something floating out there that I've sent out and you haven't received, or you just don't want to dig back through your emails because it gets buried, shoot me an email and I'll get all that information out to you. There's a lot of resources out there right now, and a lot of those are being updated daily, sometimes if not hourly, just because there's so many things changing and changing so quickly. And there's also, just within our state, depending on where you are, sometimes those things change rapidly also. So if you have questions, issues, problems, whatever, please do not hesitate to reach out to me. And if I don't have the answer right off, I'll definitely look for that for you. Also, if you're having issues collaborating sometimes with other entities, please let me know. That's what I'm here for, is try to, bridge that gap. That I don't have any monitoring authority or anything like that, but my job really is to make sure that I'm supporting you in whatever way you need to make sure Head Start services are out there and our children and families are served.
Very good. Thanks, Sally. One thing I will say about today, and this is true of all of our Zooms that we've had over the last few months, is it is being recorded. And the reason I bring that up today is because I think that there may be many aspects of this conversation as we go through some of these questions and answers and sharing that you may find yourself wanting to take furious notes. I might encourage you to, if you need to take notes, great, but I would encourage you to be a part of the conversation and really be participating in it. And you can access this recording afterwards if you're looking for any additional information from it. With that, I will say we do have a YouTube channel. I hope some folks have been over there to check it out. All of these Zoom meetings that we have had are available on that YouTube channel. They're open to the public. I don't think there's been anything that we've shared here that is proprietary in nature to our association. So I'd encourage you to view them, share them, and just take a look. And if you've got any suggestions on that front, please let us know. So with that, I'm going to share my screen real quick because we've got some of these questions to share. So we had 6 questions that we wanted to ask folks to be thinking about for today. First and foremost, and I know that we've asked each of you these questions several times over the summer because things continue to evolve, but what date or dates is your Head Start or early Head Start programs looking at for reopening this fall? What attendance model or models are you planning to use? And how long do you anticipate this model being used? What key collaborations does your program have in the community to support your efforts? And then we get into what successes have you experienced? And we've got sort of a list of examples here, certainly not an exclusive list or exhaustive list rather. What challenges are you still experiencing? And then finally, what questions do you still have? So recognizing that those are our questions, I thought it might be good just to see if there's anyone who is perhaps willing to go first to discuss what's happening in their program without us having to go through the roster and call on anybody. So I'll just sort of open it up and whoever would like to go first can go first. Look at all those volunteers.
John, I don't care. Just go. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, that's okay. Go ahead.
Okay, well, this is Martina with Gateway. And so, as far as the return date, we're looking at August the 31st at this moment in time. But where we serve 10 different counties, every county is pretty much doing a different model. from virtual to a hybrid model to back to full-blown sessions. And so, you know, we've taken that all into consideration, and I know the governor is going to speak this afternoon, so I'm not for sure if he's going to roll out anything. Now, I've been told that the Commissioner of Education is really pushing for 100% virtual classes in the fall. So I don't know if the governor is going to release anything within the next few days as far as guidance on that or not, but we are looking at going strictly virtual, because, you know, I'm not for sure how long we would be able to remain in session. I can tell you from experience, we opened up our early Head Start, one of our early Head Start facilities 2 weeks ago. And within 8 days of service, we were notified that we had a potential exposure. So we had to shut back down after 8 days of services. So that's why we're kind of looking at the virtual model at this point in time. And in addition to that, with the collaborations and so forth, we are working with our local school districts on meal service, because typically in the majority of our counties, the school district provides our meal service for us. So we are working on a continued contract with them, but having our Head Start staff to deliver those meals out to our families. And then, of course, you know, the collaboration with special education and so forth, that will just be what the districts, you know, kind of roll out and determine what they're going to do as far as meeting those special education guidelines.
So Martina, you mentioned that it's different in each one. Are you seeing any common threads in terms of dates and attendance models across all the folks that you collaborate with?
No, we have one of our 10 counties is going 100% virtual, and that will be August the 24th, I think, is their start date. The rest of them are either going, there's about two out of the 10, I think, that are looking at pretty much full-blown models going back in attendance. And then the other ones are offering a variety of models. So it's parents' choice as to whether or not they want to go virtual, the hybrid model, or the, you know, going back full-time.
Mm-hmm.
My only concern, I guess, that we've really tried to think through with this on the collaboration is because we're trying to right now, you know, recruit children for our upcoming program. And in the event that the school district's preschool program offers services one way and Head Start offers it a different way, then there could be a competition factor that's put into play there.
Mm-hmm.
So we're trying to work with the districts as close as possible, but and we've surveyed lots of every family that we have accepted so far. We've been conducting surveys on those families, and it's really split half and half. And it's by county. I've got it broken down by county as well. There's some counties that the parents are saying, if you're not going to offer virtual, I'm not going to send my child, which will open up a vacancy. There's other parents that's saying, yes, I will send my child, you know, in person. So, you know, the surveys are coming back, and it's kind of split at this point as well.
Employment insurance, protection for renters, protection for state and local government workers. Negotiations haven't even begun with Democrats, but there are.
Uh-oh, somebody's got the TV on. Jeff, what's happening in Audubon?
Well, we've got a little bit of everything. We've got school systems that we partner with that are going to open anywhere from 1 or 2 mid-August. Most of them late August, have 1 or 2 in September planning openings. All of them are planning, that I've spoke with, and pretty well have spoke with most all of them, are planning on some type of combination of offering virtual services if the parents want it, or in person. Some are planning on going 4 or 5 days a week in person. I have some that are going to do it every other day, and to hold down their numbers. I have some that's going to do 1 week on and 1 week virtual. So we have a little bit of everything. We have, since June 15th, had approximately 31 rooms open in our centers that run full year. And we've had very little problem with it. We have one classroom we had to shut down for a week. Outside of that, it's runs far smoother than I expected. And we are running those normal 5 days a week, normal times for the most part. So it's really been better than I thought, but it is, we're going to have to deal with this going forward in some form or fashion for sure.
So, a question that I should have asked of Martina, but I'll ask of both of you and anybody going forward is, are there any sort of contingency plans that are in place? So for instance, if you do have a district or a group that is going to be going forward with an in-person model or predominantly an in-person model, do they have contingency plans for if indeed they end up having new infections, and are they prepared to go that route?
Yes, I think all the ones that I'm working with have several different plans, but they definitely have a plan thinking that they may be out for a period of a few days, a week, a couple of weeks, or potentially go long term again. So I think that every superintendent that I've talked with, all the preschool directors I've talked with, they have several different plans made up with the anticipation that there will be periods of virtual. Audubon itself, we are really working on the virtual end and trying to get resources for our teaching staff, thinking that, some kids are going to want to stay virtual all the time. They don't want to come back, but also knowing that we may have those periods of times where we will have to go straight virtual.
Mm-hmm. Okay, who else wants to share?
I'll share, John. Just like Jeff and Martina, we.
Uh-oh. I think we lost you, Rhonda.
Tuesday, 10 kids each day. Wednesday, no one's there. The staff would be doing a deep cleaning. And then Thursday, Friday is the other 10 kids. If we are able to meet our enrollment, like I told you last week, it doesn't look like we're even going to meet our enrollment. So, but as far as our early Head Start, we had initially planned on opening back up on July the 6th, but overnight, my counties became hotspots in Kentucky. So the health department, the lady that's over the health department is actually on my policy council. So she was involved in the plan of reopening. So she actually contacted us and asked us to hold off. So we've still not opened that back up yet. And so I had contacted my program specialist and she said, great, thanks for working with your local health departments.
Okay, who else is willing to share before we have to start calling on you?
I'll share from Middle Kentucky.
All right.
Okay, so our plan right now is we'll be serving A-B groups, 10 children in each session. So Group A will come on Monday, Wednesday, and Group B will come on Tuesday and Thursday. And we've really tried to work through some logistics of making that as safe as possible. One of the things that we're doing when we offer transportation, it'll be one child per seat. And all of our bus routes will be broken up geographically into an A and B group. So like, one end of the route will be the A group, the other end of the route will be the B group. Also, when those children ride that bus, whatever bus they ride will determine what classroom they go into. So one bus won't be dropping multiple children off all over the building. One bus will go to one classroom. And so we're doing that so that we make sure that children are staying with the same group all day per the guidelines. And of course, we're not going to be using our cafeteria. There'll be any classroom that has a self-contained bathroom, we'll be using that. And if we have a classroom that has to use the bathrooms, they'll be sanitized in between. No groups will share the playground. It'll be sanitized between groups. And we're really looking at August 24th as our reopening date. So also, I didn't say, but the days that they're not in session, so the other 2 days a week will be virtual. So that'll really help as far as contingency, because they'll have that practice, and our teachers will have the practice already of doing 2 days a week virtual with the individual groups. So that'll really help if we have to go full virtual. But our families were really not very interested in virtual. When we surveyed them, we had like 80% that wanted in person. Now, since then, cases have went up a little bit around the state, not really in our area, but they have went up around the state. And so we have had a couple call back and say that they're just not interested at all. We've tried to convince them to do virtual, but typically if they're not interested in person, they are not interested in our virtual option. So we're just going to have to see. Thankfully, we've learned from the camp sessions that we don't have to stress about meeting 100% enrollment. So that really has given us some of the flexibility to be able to say, let's serve everyone that we can serve up to our total enrollment, but not stress if that drops a little bit.
Chris, what do you think attributes to the lack of interest in the virtual? Is it a lack of connectivity?
I think so. We're in a very, very rural area, and none of our counties have internet county line to county line except maybe one. So I really think also we have a very large percentage of grandparents raising grandchildren. So I think that has a lot to do with it as well.
This is Martina. My question is, if you're going to have the AB group and Group A going on Monday and Wednesday, how are you planning to clean between groups?
Well, the janitors will be sanitizing every afternoon, and the teachers will be sanitizing every afternoon. We're probably going to remove a lot of stuff from our shelves because we're going to have only 10 kids at a time. So it'll be less things to sanitize. We do have purchased from Hilliard way before the pandemic a sanitizing, we call it a sanitizing gun. I don't really know what it is. But anyway, it sprays out a mist so you can quickly sanitize things. Teachers will also be using their bleach bottles. And one of the ways, of course, you know, they want us to call it physical distancing whilst being socially connected, I think, instead of social distancing. But anyway, one of the ways we're going to do that is by limiting the amount of children that can play in our play areas. So typically, like you would have 4 in the block area, we'll have one in every area. And we'll remove chairs so that when we sit at the table, there'll only be half of the amount of chairs there. And they'll just sanitize all of our surfaces. We're going to remove everything that can't be easily sanitized. So there'll be no dress-up clothes. There'll be no stuffed animals. There'll be no pillows. I'm really not even for sure about our circle time rugs. We may remove those and just have large, well, we probably won't do a large group because you can't really put kids together. So maybe those things that are typically done in large group will be done around the table as a small group setting. I'm not sure exactly how that will look. But we're really doing all of that to try to, promote the social distancing.
And how many hours a day are you operating each of those classrooms?
6, so 8:30 to 2:30. And also our pickup and drop off is going to be very different. The parents will not come into the buildings at all. They'll pull up. We're going to model it just like all of our school systems do it now. They'll pull up, a staff person will go out, scan the child's temperature, record that, and the staff person will bring the child into the building. But I already contacted licensing. We do have to have the parent's signature when they drop the child off. I was hoping we could even avoid that. But we will have to have, I guess, a series of pens that you just let that parent use it, throw it in a cup, and then when you get several there, just sanitize to reuse. Our staff will also be self-recording their temperature every morning when they come in and filling out a health self-evaluation.
Thanks, Chris. All right, who'd like to share next?
Hey, John, this is Vaughn in Louisville. How are you today, sir?
I'm good, Vaughn. Thanks for chiming in.
Not a problem, sir. Things are a little different for us because we're a startup. And so some of the hurdles that other individuals and other grantees are running into, we're not having the same hurdles, but we're having different hurdles. So to start off, we're going with a combination model because with our program, we were already a combination. And so we were providing a home-based option for our early Head Start program throughout the county. but we are offering center-based services for specific zip code areas. And so what we're looking to do is possibly provide more virtual services across the board for our center-based families. And so we've also talked about absolutely positively changing our program design to possibly doing all early Head Start as a home-based service. We also did some contingency plans with our center-based, doing a combination with those Head Start children if we do just do Head Start at the center-based, looking at an option of doing a combination with some virtual learning for those parents that chooses that, and then also some center-based services. And we're still working out the kinks on those. Our biggest supporter right now is with the school system, JCPS. We just finished signing our full utilization agreement with them. And so we are really appreciating the support they have with us in ensuring that our numbers meet the requirements. We know that we're not going to make full enrollment right now. We're still a startup. And so we're still trying to get to the point of opening centers and getting children enrolled. So we don't have the same kind of pressure as everyone else does, as we're still in that process of ramping up.
One question I've got for everybody. So we're talking a lot about virtual, which we knew we would. Is there a particular model or curriculum or program or system that programs are using in order to promote the virtual learning at home?
With our program being a home base for the Early Head Start program, we were already utilizing the Partners for a Healthy Baby curriculum to do those things. And they have adjusted their curriculum to ensure us the opportunity to provide more virtual learning during this pandemic crisis. As far as our Head Start is concerned, we are actually partnered, or we have a consulting deal with Shine, Celeroy, who does a lot of our support system. And they have a curriculum for our Head Start age children that we can utilize for the virtual learning.
Mm-hmm. I might throw that question
this
back
is
in.
Renee Sexton from LKLP. I just wanted to chime in. It kind of sounds like that Chris from Middle Kentucky and I have been planning together, but we really haven't. But everything that he has said is things that we were thinking on doing, with the exception of the start date. And right now, I'm kind of advocating for starting after September 30th, since OHS has given the green light on us, you know, being able to continue on as we have been up until that point. But I guess it will be contingent upon the governor's announcement today. That'll help us make some plans and decisions. But where the numbers of children cases are increasing, I'm really advocating for that. Our parents, surprisingly, there's about 60% on each program, Head Start and Early, that are, you know, pushing for us to open back up. And I think that mostly is because of them, you know, trying to get back to work and not having child care and things like that. But we are planning on doing some virtual, some in class whenever we do open back up. And somebody had mentioned the idea of like cleaning midweek. I like that idea. I think that would be good to clean in between the groups. We had originally talked about going Monday, Wednesday, and then, Monday, Tuesday, and then Wednesday, Thursday for different groups so we can keep the numbers down to 10. But I'm going to propose to my team that we consider it, you know, Monday, Tuesday, and then clean Wednesday, and then go Thursday, Friday. But we're planning on doing, you know, the same thing with our transportation, one child per seat. Same thing as far as the transportation of children going into a specific classroom so that keeps the kids, you know, together. 6-hour days. I mean, just mostly everything that middle is doing. That's what we have planned on doing too. We are going to have designated staff members to do the temperature checks designated staff members to kind of do the running as far as pickups and drop-offs of kids and that sort of thing. But I think that's basically what I've got to add.
Mhm. Christy, I know that you've just been able to join us. We've been having a good conversation thus far. We've heard from Audubon, Bell Whitley, Family and Children's Place in Louisville, Gateway, Middle Kentucky, and we just heard from Renee at LKLP.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. I'm so sorry. We had a little emergency at our building I had to run and take care of. So I will revisit a lot of the conversation as soon as I have the recording. But yeah, it's been exciting. I'll continue to listen on and then share as I need to.
All right, who wants to go next?
John, this is Shonda with Northeast Head Start.
Hey, Shonda.
Our plan is pretty much following what everybody else has been saying. We did survey our parents, and there's a big push. They're wanting that in service. You know, they want to come to class. One of the biggest struggles that we have, and I think Martina talked about it earlier too, is, you know, we've had families say, well, if you're not doing in class, I'm not sending my child, because they're really, really struggling with, you know, getting that NTI or, you know, being available for that virtual learning aspect. So we have tried to reach out to them and offer the families multiple projects, you know, whether doing the paper NTI packets or doing, you know, the online learning. And, you know, it's just been a struggle. And, you know, we've re-surveyed them. And, again, even with the numbers increasing, a lot of them has asked for that in person. Our plan is the Monday, Tuesday, then we'll clean on Wednesday, and we'll have the second group on Thursday, Friday. We've increased some staffing. We've hired staff that will be dedicated to doing nothing but sanitizing all day long throughout the building and the facility. Our buses, we have arranged it to where each classroom will have a designated bus that they will ride with staggered times. We've also worked on the virtual aspect, and this is my question for the other directors and stuff, is what is your attendance model? How do you plan on doing the attendance for the virtual program? You know, with us, we have some school districts that have already said we're virtual at least for the first 6 weeks of school, and then we will readdress it. But, you know, our biggest issue is how to determine that attendance.
Shonda, this is Christy. We're using a virtual or at-home model, and we actually have more families right now that are wanting a virtual model than they're wanting the at-home, or then they're wanting the in-person. So we'll be using ABC Mouse because it aligns with our curriculum Frog Street. It aligns to our curriculum map very well, and we can individualize instruction that way as well with ABC Mouse. And so a child's daily attendance use on that program, and then contact with either family service or education staff counts for their daily attendance.
Hey, this is Chris from Middle Kentucky. We actually are in the process of buying the Ignite software from Hatch and a lot of the tablets. So for anybody that uses TSG, that may be also an option. I'm not for sure all of what that entails because we literally just sent the contract in this week and the purchase order for that. But I'm really hoping that that'll be a way we can track when they're on there daily. But again, with us, that may not, I believe they can play on the tablets without internet, so that'll work great. But we will have to figure out a way that they can bring those into the center periodically so we can upload the data.
Hey, this is Renee Sexton again. That is something that we are going to be utilizing. We've actually already started it. And Justin, the assistant director, he is on the call too. And if he would like to speak up and kind of speak to that a little bit more, because he's more familiar with everything on that.
Yes, we're using the Hatch Ignite, and it does align with the PSG objectives and dimensions, and it uploads the observations directly real time into TSG. And they do have, as you mentioned, they do have the option that parents and children can use the tablet without internet connectivity because the software is already pre-downloaded on the tablets, or they can either download the app themselves on a desktop, a laptop, anything you could download an app on, actually. We love it so far.
My understanding on those tablets or the software itself is they have to have internet access at least once a week in order to that information to be able to be uploaded. We have started those with early, and we've purchased them for Head Start, but of course, with us not being in session yet, we haven't started the use with Head Start.
Right, that is the only way they need connectivity, is just in order to upload the observations, which is only at least once a week. But in order to play the games, they don't have to have any internet connectivity.
Right.
John, this is Christy again. We have purchased tablets for all of our Head Start students, and our district is working with our local Paducah Power and our housing authority and Comcast to provide all of our families that live in our housing area free internet. So they will be prioritized and have that accessibility to always have internet service. So now we're just working with our local power company and Comcast to provide hotspots for all of our other families, which for us, that's about 20 other families who do not have access.
The internet, this is Shonda, the internet access is a big issue for us in our area because we have several families that don't even have cell phone service at their location, let alone internet services. So that is just one of our biggest struggle is trying to figure out, would we send staff out to pick up these tablets? Do we, and then families are overwhelmed with phone calls if we're calling the families every day, to document that attendance, especially if they're trying to work as well.
There's always the possibility of the families taking the tablets, with them if they go out to McDonald's or Wendy's or Burger King or something like that they could use, free internet there for a little bit.
Yeah.
Well, this is Martina Gateway. We're doing the same things as far as, the daily contacts. We're also looking at the Hatch tablets. But another thing that we're going to try to do is have like a weekly socialization to where all the children in the classroom would connect the virtual platform that we decide to use, and then that would count as attendance as well.
I have a question about the socialization. Were you meaning that you would allow your children to see each other?
Yes, through whatever, I think we're looking at Google Classroom right now, to where all the children could connect to each other at least one day a week and have some in-depth discussions.
I love that idea.
We've actually talked about twice a week doing like a Monday and a Friday group socialization, and Monday kind of start off the week with reading a story, the teacher reading a story to kind of align with the unit of study for that week, and then following up on the activities on Friday so the children can talk about what they've done, their learning experiences and those types of things, but see each other as well.
Carla, what's happening down in Southern Kentucky?
Well, it's still morning for me, so good morning, everybody. In Southern Kentucky, we're basically planning some of the same things that everyone else has mentioned, and thank you all for sharing because I've gotten some really good ideas and tips, especially the Wednesday break. I like that, going to Monday, Tuesday class and then break Wednesday. So we will probably implement that same strategy as well. Most of our parents have requested the hybrid model, so 2 days a week, and then on the other 2 days they would have virtual learning. We use creative curriculum, and we subscribe to the digital resources, which has a parent curriculum already in the studies, so they can just email those out. We do have families that have limited resources to internet, so that will be a challenge for some. So we're looking at that as well. We also have the Ready Rosie parent curriculum that works great, especially with our early Head Start program that we'll continue to use, and we can monitor when the parents are actually online with the Ready Rosie curriculum. So I have 2 questions for everyone. One is, did anyone or is anyone planning to do a summer enhancement program? And then 2, has anyone used the Centos cleaning supplies? I have a rep that calls me daily to use Centos for sanitation and disinfectant, but I'm just not sold yet. So that's my questions for the group.
Carla, this is Christy. We use Centos regularly here at Paducah Head Start. We have since I've been here, and we are very pleased with it. We recently, we've had that, we've added in their first aid system as well. So I've been very pleased with Centos.
Thank you, Christy. So has anyone, is anyone planning to do a summer enhancement or thinking about that?
Hey, Carla, this is Missy with KCEOC. I can answer that question. We started doing one last week. This is our 2nd week. Some of our families were really into doing it. We're doing it all virtual. We actually delivered packets to all of our families that had puzzles and books and math activities and art supplies, just a huge bag full of stuff for every family. And our teachers have been doing, what we've asked them to do is twice a week, do some kind of a online virtual where you can see the families, whether it's Facebook, live, Zoom, something like that. And then the other 2 days a week, just make some kind of contact by phone. But the teachers are recording and putting on their personal Facebook page. Some of our teachers have created a Facebook page just for their classroom, but they're doing an online activity with the materials that we have provided to the families. We have some that are loving it. We have some that were like, I'm not interested, just bring us our supplies and good luck. But overall, it's been a really positive experience.
Thank you, Missy. Missy, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. We also have a standalone child care center that we had opened on July the 15th. And after the weekend and all the increase in numbers of children under 5, the executive director and I made an executive decision to just put the child care on pause. So we'll be closing that this week. I'm really concerned about the number of children under 5 that have tested positive just over the weekend. So that's also a concern of mine. So again, I appreciate everyone's sharing today and the virtual models. We've been doing that with our early Head Start and our full year Head Start. We've been doing the virtual model and it worked very well. Parents were very appreciative and participated. So we'll probably continue that into the fall until the numbers of cases under 5 are stable or none at all.
Hey, I have a question.
You bet.
For the programs that are looking at starting the year all virtual, so that, of course, we all ended the year that way, and that worked out okay. Obviously, there could be improvements made, but those were already families and children that we had established a relationship with, and I am a little worried about starting the year with new families and new children and trying to do all virtual. So maybe somebody that's doing that can share the way that they're building the relationships and getting good participation with new families in a virtual model.
I'll just answer that. Chris, this is Carla Brown again with Community Action. We received an early Head Start conversion earlier this year, and it didn't get off the ground until the beginning of April, which was already the COVID, shutdown. And we've had full enrollment virtually with our early Head Start program. So, and these are new families, families that, weren't familiar with the early Head Start program, but they have come on board and participated virtually with their children.
Okay, who would like to share next?
This is Sally, and I'm not really sharing. I'm just giving a couple of comments. Going back to the Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday schedule. Previously, when I was a teacher, the district that I was part of, actually, we went 4 days a week, but the off day was Wednesday. So instead of Friday, no children, it was Wednesday, no children. And then, of course, throwing in snow days and some other things, but that schedule actually works. So folks who are looking at doing every other day, sometimes that gets confusing for kids, but you also, again, have to balance out the needs of your families, because then that makes sometimes a big gap if you're not contacting them in some way on those alternate days. So either way that you do that, I really encourage that connection on those off days to make them still feel like they're part of school. The other thing just I want to throw out there is someone earlier mentioned, I think it was Martina, that they're working with their school districts on the meals. So that can be one of the ways that you contact or get in touch with those families, especially if you're doing that somehow daily, for either in attendance or participation, or even for Wi-Fi. I know that across the state, there were some districts, and may even be some Head Start programs, but I know a couple of districts who actually use their food service to actually provide other types of service. So they had Wi-Fi in the buses. I don't know how that happens. So just, I'm putting that out there. I don't know the logistics or how to make that happen. I just know that some of them had Wi-Fi in their buses. And so with their buses, when they went out to serve students, they had other buses and vans and teachers who went along and provided other services. So just keep that in mind as something to brainstorm, that there may be a way, especially in those rural areas, that you partner with a church and park in a parking lot or something along those lines to help that. So you can do some things, social distancing, but it's a checkpoint every week or however often it needs to be made. I just wanted to throw that out there before I forgot about it.
This is Martina. That's a good point, because if we're delivering meals to the families, we had looked at designated pickup and drop-off spots for that, or drop-off spots, but that would be a way that we could calculate attendance as well if they're participating in the meal service.
Kim, what's happening at OVEC?
We are hopefully going to start back our full day, full year early Head Start. Staff will come back on August the 3rd, children on August the 10th, and that's all parent drop-off, parent transport. And we're in virtual pre-service this week, and we just kicked off this morning about 10. We have about 130 on virtually, getting trauma-informed care today. And I am following my school district's lead on the center base, because we contract with them for transportation and to use the cafeterias. So I talked to most all of them on Friday, and several of them had board meetings tonight. So they'll be releasing their plan to me tomorrow. But a lot of them are doing the AB schedules. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, no kids on Friday, or Monday, Tuesday, clean on Wednesday, kids on Thursday, Friday. So that's what we're looking at. The one question that we did have is one district is going to bus the kids, but their board has made the decision that every child must be masked, must wear a mask. So we've got to call into the health department to ensure safety on that, because my understanding was it was suffocation hazard for children under 5 to wear a mask. So that's the only district that so far has that rule, but I'm still waiting to talk to some other districts. And a lot of them are looking for August 24th, September 2nd, and September the 9th. And a lot of them have emailed me this morning and said, pending what the governor says today, there could be change. So that's where we are right now, as of today, John.
Right. Thank you.
You're welcome. Does anybody else?
Kim, this is Ray from LKLP. We were planning on doing a virtual pre-service as well. I was just curious as how your first day went with that.
It's going awesome. We're doing trauma-informed care. We did a contract, and they've presented 2 hours. We've taken an hour for lunch, and they're going to present again 1 to 3. All the handouts were sent out Friday. Staff could follow along. They're getting TRIS credit. So far, so good. Tomorrow will be all class from 1 to 3. Wednesday's all the teaching staff doing TSG. And then Friday will be our normal day. I'll be presenting live to them Friday morning, Dr. Moonhan. So far, so good. It's gone absolutely wonderful.
That's great. Thank you for sharing.
You're welcome.
We were thinking about expanding it out over a 2-week period. For our pre-service, doing, just snippets each day. One, because it's Zoom and all the technology issues, and then, 2, just because we're having to make a big change. Try it this way. That way staff don't feel overloaded, overwhelmed, and hopefully they will retain a little bit more. So that's our plans for pre-service.
Well, they're getting 4 hours credit today, and there was a little anxiety this morning. Some people had trouble getting into, there was a barcode, and some of them were tech challenged, had trouble, but they could also just write their name and click in, and that worked too. So it's been excellent, the trauma-informed care we've gotten this morning.
Renee, this is Martina at Gateway. One of the things that we're going to be doing is, because we use Google as our platform, we are going to stream it live through YouTube, because we have so many staff, I was afraid it would kick people off. So the field staff participants will be watching the pre-service through the YouTube live channel, and they are able to write in comments, ask questions, and those types of things through that YouTube channel.
Thank you, Martina.
Jessica, what's happening with community action in Lexington?
Oh, what's not happening with us? So we're in the middle of pre-service, so sorry if I seem a little scattered. I'm trying to do both, but we have so many centers. We're trying to roll out everything center by center. We don't want to open all at once. Right now, our migrant locations are in operations, and things are going very well with them. But just like everyone else's concerns, I'm very concerned about the high numbers we are seeing, and then the increase in children under 5. We will be planning a combination of some of the things that have already been discussed. We're going to have our teachers get a Zoom account because Zoom is free, and a lot of our parents know what Zoom is. So we plan on having basically them teaching their classrooms through Zoom, or at least having hopefully a 2-day a week classroom where all of the kids can see each other, but we do plan on having fun little socializations, virtual field trips that all of the kids can participate in. And we also plan on recording each teacher doing, well, not each teacher at once, but say for a certain week, if in the classroom we would be, I don't know, discussing trains, then the virtual kiddos will be discussing trains too. So we want our lesson plans to kind of coincide with each other so that the children will be learning the same things. When we do open, we took a survey of from our parents, and most of them do want to come back, which I'm a little bit surprised, but a lot of them want to come back. Our issue, and I'm sure a lot of you may have the same issues with, we want to stick with the 10 per classroom. So that means, we have to decide who will get those services first, or who would be able to come back first. And we're giving a preference to those families that use our wraparound services, those working families whose children usually stay with us outside of Head Start hours. So just working through that, we had scheduled a tentative open date for our early Head Start to be August 3rd. I'm pretty sure I'm going to push that back, just because we are still waiting for some of those items, those PPE items, or some of those items that would help our classrooms be COVID safe. We've already taken out the soft fabric items in the classroom. But right now, we're planning for at least 2 to 3 different situations to occur. Let's see, did I answer all the questions? If I didn't, you're free to ask me whatever.
Jessica, this is Carla. Are your migrant children coming to the center, or are they virtual as well?
Yes, our migrant children are at the centers. It was important for us that the children not be in the fields with the parents. So right now, as long as we don't see any problems, we will plan on, again, slowly reopening our centers. With us having so many centers, our opening plan is different depending on the centers, because some centers you are able to maybe have an awning and parents are able to drive up, and teachers are able to pick their kids up from the car. But some of our centers are not set up like that. So we're really individualizing each center, their drop off, pick up, whether we want to hold off their opening. Like some of my big centers, we want to hold them off to be last, just to see how everyone else works out. Yeah.
Thank you.
Christy, do you want to share what's happening in Paducah?
Sure, that sounds great. Well, first of all, I just want to say, way to go, everybody. I love that we're all sharing. I think it helps us think outside the box. I do want to share some tidbits of information that I have learned as I laughed through it. But I'd say the best thing that I've done is continue to have our weekly conversations, or every other week conversations with our epidemiologist here in Paducah, to see how our cases are growing, especially the age group that they're growing in. And then we met with them to kind of poke holes through our reopening guidance and our information that we're sharing with staff. So that's probably one of the best things I did. We also brought in our emergency teams, the fire, health, emergency management, and our local ambulance. So when the fire department came, the first question they asked me is, how much hand sanitizer do you have on property? I did not realize this, and I hope that you all know this and don't fall into this this area, but you can only have 5 gallons of hand sanitizer in a building. I don't know if that is only for school districts or if that's for anybody, but we had bought a lot of hand sanitizer to front load to ensure that we had enough PPE. But when our fire marshal came through and wanted to see that, we have well over that amount. So we are having to distribute that across the district into other schools. But that was one of their concerns, just from a fire safety perspective, with all the alcohol, and obviously it's very flammable. So we'll be spreading that out. That was just kind of a tidbit of information for you. As far as our reopening date, our start date for preschoolers is September 1st, and we're following a little bit behind the school district, and obviously that could change today or any day before September 1st. We are offering a full day model and an at-home virtual learning model. The full day, we did survey all of our returning families, and based on the data that the full day services supports their family better. So we're continuing the full day or the at-home model. Every student, whether they're virtual or here in person, will receive that tablet and an at-home learning kit. The at-home learning kit is about, I forget how much money it is per child, but it includes a dry erase board, dry erase markers, fine motor skills, activities, books to go along with the main themes that we talk about throughout the school year, and several other items that we can use to support that developmentally appropriate learning at home. I know that we're going to have some type of, the technology is going to help connect us to a little bit more of the curriculum, but I didn't want to fall away from what we know as early childhood educators as the key to learning. So giving them those items to play with, giving them the fine motor tools they need to have, the art materials. So we put together those kits to go along with everything as well. We've been able to designate 5 staff members to be our virtual staff, and we have 8 classrooms that will be our in-person as of right now, so that those 5 virtual classrooms will be able to really focus on connecting with the children and families to do what's needed to support them. Another area that we have focused in on, just this past weekend, I've been working with our homeless coordinator this weekend on our staff wellness and our staff mental health model. And we use Teams. I know a lot of people use the Google Classroom, but we use Teams. And so we're developing a channel that our staff can go to for direct resources in mental health, mindfulness, yoga, just a lot of healthy eating resources, so that we can also work on what that mental health model looks like for our staff, because, they've really not been back here since March. So focusing in on how we're supporting our staff is just as important as how we're going to support our kiddos. Key collaborations we have in the community, I would say our biggest collaboration is with working on technology right now. That's probably one of the largest ones, besides our, our Paducah Cooperative Ministry and some of those other resources that help with food and services for families. That's probably been our key one as of right now. So I'm definitely a little bit more concerned with the numbers going up, like everybody said, with children under 5. We have another meeting this afternoon here at 1 o'clock with our epidemiologist to give us a little bit more guidance and direction on how that's working. The other piece of information I will share is she has asked all of our admin staff that kind of come in and out of the classrooms. We are to keep a log of how often we're in classrooms, which classrooms we're going into, and it's a you can look on the CDC website, but it's a 15-minute time frame before you're considered at risk and you have to contact trace yourself in that classroom. So our kind of time limit is 13 minutes in a classroom if we need to go in to assist. Obviously wearing the appropriate amount of PPE is needed for the child or children that we're working with. But they had asked us just to keep a daily log of which classrooms we're going into, the teachers in that classroom, and the children that we interact with. So a little bit more guidance than I've heard from other places, and so I just thought I'd share that along. So hope everybody's doing well, and thank you for sharing on the call today. I appreciate it.
Cindy, what's happening in Murray?
Well, lots of discussions and decisions still to be made. Of course, we're working with all of our partner school districts, and everybody's doing something a little bit different. You know, following their guidance and local health department guidance. I think we're going to see quite a few changes to their plans after the governor's message this afternoon or even this week. We still have, most of our districts have delayed. We have one that's meeting tonight to possibly consider a delay that they had not approved last week. So a lot up in the air. You know, our concerns, we have a couple of sites that focus on university schedules, and they'll be back in session in August in person. So we're trying to work those details out for our early Head Start folks, and more questions than answers, honestly, still. And you know, we like to have plans. Head Start folks like to plan well ahead and have that plan to work from, and we just don't right now. You know, every time we plan, it changes. And so the only thing constant is inconsistency. We are going to purchase the TSG program that does the digital resources and the online learning and has the Ready Rosie connection. We did make that decision last week after talking with all of our school district partners. That's the consensus of what they would like us to jointly use for virtual learning. We have a combination. We have parents who have, through surveys, have said in person and absolutely not in person. I don't know that right now I don't think we have any districts that are trying to do a hybrid, a combination for a particular child. They'll either be virtual or they'll be in person, to the best of my knowledge at this point. We're just trying to stay on top with each district. We've had really good communication with those plans, you know, and trying to take into account the escalations and all the concerns over numbers that you know, we have one of the hotspot districts in our area, and so a lot of concerns there about whether families really will send them when it comes down to that actual time to start. So that's kind of where we are at this point.
Do James or Tara want to share what's happening at Northern?
Yeah, we can. We are currently planning on opening August 26th is the tentative start date. We have, even though we're only a 4-county service area, we still serve 14 school districts in our area. So there's a lot to consider, and everyone's doing something a little bit different. Most of our partners in the school districts are doing some kind of a hybrid model or offering a virtual option for parents to choose. So in our initial planning, we're of course going to offer a virtual model for families who don't feel comfortable sending their child. We haven't had a huge, we surveyed all of our current returning families, and we didn't have a huge interest in virtual. We do have relatively low, well, at least pre-COVID, unemployment rates here in Northern Kentucky. So a lot of these families are working, so they really do need the care. We were trying to think of, okay, how can we best serve children in the center? So we were thinking of utilizing that grace that the Office of Head Start has kind of extended to all of us for enrollment and just operating as under-enrolled with a virtual model and then an in-person model that would be 4 days a week for 5 hours a day, just to provide some additional time for staff to clean after children dismiss. But then last week, a lot of our school district partners came out with their plans for reopening, which again, like everyone said, might change after the governor's address today. But now we're giving some thought into potentially serving more children and doing like a Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday option, because we have a lot of centers that are located in school district facilities. So those are conversations that we are still having, and we'll probably finalize those details this week. We are getting ready to start pre-service virtually, and that begins on Thursday. So our staff will be in training utilizing Teams. We did do, I know a lot of people have talked about the summer programs. We did offer a summer program that we operated for 3 weeks. We ended up closing it a little bit early because we were getting ready to open our early Head Start classrooms, and well, one of our, and then we had a staff member who works in early Head Start and was in the same facility as our summer program that was in operation. And she tested positive for COVID. So just in an abundance of caution, we've kind of decided, we decided to go ahead and end that summer program, and we pushed back our start date for early Head Start. Kind of like Cindy said, there's just like a lot of questions and not a lot of answers right now. But with our summer program, we did do, we offered like in-person tutoring sessions. So children made an 1.5 hour long appointment with teachers and came into our centers, and they worked once a week there with a teacher. So that's what we did for the summer program. I know a lot of people have talked about with our virtual option, doing like a virtual socialization. We actually did that in the initial closure back in March, April, and May. A lot of our centers did that through Google Meets or Google Meet or Zoom. And it was really successful. The children were super excited to see all of their friends and their teachers. So it was really a success. So if you have the opportunity to do that, I definitely would encourage people to incorporate that. James, do you have anything that I'm missing?
I do not. In terms of the summer program, so like Tara said, the child got to come for an hour and a half a week and work one-on-one with a teacher. And then after their hour and a half session, then they got a bag with activities. And then they also got like a snack bag that lasted a few days as well. So after each visit, they got one of those. And then the goal at the end of the summer program was they got a full backpack filled with all of the supplies they needed for whatever school they were going to go to kindergarten. But since we had to abruptly close a little bit early, when we start back, the first week of August, we're going to be delivering those to those children. So they still get to be able to have that as well. So.
Alicia, would you be able to speak to what's happening at Lake Cumberland?
Sure, John. Right now, we have an anticipated start date of August 31st. We are also looking at doing a combination of center-based and virtual. And we have A and B groups. One group would go Monday, Tuesday, then we'd clean on Wednesday, and then the other group would go on Thursday, Friday. We are looking at doing limited transportation, mainly for children that absolutely need to be in the center, and children that's at daycare, because with our limited number of buses and staff and the length of our routes, usually it would not be feasible for us to try to run a route or many routes and do the social distancing that's required. We're getting stocked up on our PPE. Of course, like everybody else, we're going to wait and see what the governor says. We have a few of our school systems have already made a determination to start virtually. So like I said, but we're going to wait and see what the governor says today, and then move forward based on his recommendations from today. And also we are looking at the Teaching Strategies Gold, the new platform that's coming out on it to provide virtual services. So everything will be in line with our assessments and all that good stuff.
Mm-hmm. I know we've got a few folks that have joined us via telephone, and unfortunately the system doesn't let me know who you are. I just see a number. So if there are any folks that have dialed in and not shared yet, please go ahead and do so if you'd like to. Let me ask a question of Sally, if I could. We heard, I think early in this conversation, I think it was Rhonda who mentioned the full utilization agreements. I think I've got that right. Correct me if I'm wrong, Rhonda. But what are you seeing or hearing from programs? I know we've talked about that just a little bit here, but what are the concerns that folks have? And then what can be done at the state level or other local levels to sort of figure out that challenge that I think everyone is anticipating that we might have this year?
I haven't heard really anything from Head Start programs being super concerned about full utilization, because you can adjust that number if you want on a local level. Also because on the Head Start side, Head Start's very flexible when it comes to that enrollment, as long as you are making good, strong decisions based on the data that you have, based on things that you can prove, things that you can write about and talk about. And as long as you're making those notes about why and how you came to the conclusion that you did, and they're fine with that. Every bit of guidance, every conversation that I've heard or been part of, Head Start is always, that's like one of the things that they say over and over and over again. make the decisions based on your program, your program's needs, the needs of the community that your program serves, but note that down and make sure that you're making good logical decisions based on that need of your families and the community. On the other side, I have had a couple of districts, and this is just in passing, not the phone call, but just in passing, worried that, and when I say districts, I mean public preschool, worried that on the opposite side of that, that Kentucky's not maybe going to give them leniency on their enrollment. So even though they have to serve every, in some way, either ensure services through another program such as Head Start, but they have to make sure that every kid has a preschool experience. So what does that mean when parents don't show up to the state-funded preschool program? They can go ahead this year because their funding is a year behind. What happens when their enrollment is really, really down this year when funding comes around next year? So that's really the issue that I've heard, not so much around full utilization and going back and forth against that. There may be some things, not necessarily the full utilization number, but the other things that are in that contract. So for example, how are special education services provided when the Head Start is doing one model and the school's doing another model, or they're both on the same page, and what happens if that changes in December? Those kinds of things. There are some programs that are saying no adults other than staff in. Well, does that staff include speech paths or other special education sent from the district? So working through those kinds of things, I think have been more of an issue other than just the number. So I don't see the issues around the number, but on some of those other contractual things, transportation, meals, those types of things. I do have a call on Wednesday afternoon with Andrea Bartholomew and Bill Buchanan just to talk about the preschool side of it and with Head Start. So I know the guidance that KDE has put out regarding preschool, again, not super detailed. So what's kind of, I don't want to say backdoor guidance, but what's the guidance when a district actually reaches out and says, hey, I have this issue, can you help me? So working through to make sure that we're on the same page and that districts and Head Starts are getting the same information at the same time. And I know that's going to be really hard right now because, like I said earlier, decisions are being made sometimes hourly. The other issue is that even though, KDE monitors what's in regulation. Kentucky is a locally controlled state. So that means districts make the decisions on how they meet those regulations. So sometimes that gets a little hairy in certain areas. So how do we help with guidance around that? So again, if anybody is having any kinds of issues around not just full utilization of the number, but full utilization of how do I get children served when I've been blended with a district and now things have changed. So especially around that special education, that kind of thing, please reach out and let me know.
Sally, this is Alicia. One concern that I could see maybe coming up from this, like if this year, if we see that, we're not going to get our full enrollment, maybe in a county, and for this year we lower that full utilization number for this year, then I'm afraid of the pushback that we'll get next year when things are hopefully back to normal and we want to up our number back to where it usually is. Then I'm afraid that then the school system, so on last year you were able to knock your number down, so why can't you do it this year?
Right. No, I totally get that. And that's why I say that you're going to have some really serious conversations about if you decide to lower that number. And I'm not saying that you should or shouldn't, but if you decide to lower that number, you may want it in writing somewhere that says we're lowering this number based on enrollment flexibility from OHS, based on parents and families concerned about having their child enrolled in any program and then being maybe forced to attend. It's whatever, language, but make it very clear that if you are lowering your number, that you are doing it in the spirit of collaboration, especially around just everything that's happening right now. And really talk about how, instead of lowering the number, is there a way that, for example, if you are providing some kind of mixed model and the schools are providing services one way and you guys Head Start programs are providing them another way, is there a way that you can look at those kids and those families and say, well, this family wants this, so they're going to go to that program, and this family wants this, so they're going to this program, so that now you're dividing up students on the family's wishes on as far as opening, in person, virtual, whatever. So really talking through, and again, it goes back to that trust and collaboration, that you're not, Head Start's not out recruiting in this area of the county and the school recruits in this area of the county. You're actually looking at what all of those families need. And I know that takes time, and, basically we're in August, but just sitting down and really looking at and going through the specific needs of those families to make decisions on what program best meets those needs. But Alicia, I totally get where you're coming from, because that's a very easy road to go down. But I think if you decide to do that, you need to make it very clear that these are the reasons I'm doing this. And next year, hopefully these reasons aren't in place, so we're not going to make that change.
Thank you, Sally.
Okay, other comments or questions regarding the discussion that we've been having? I know we've heard from virtually everyone who's on the call. If there's anyone who has not shared yet and you wish to, please just chime right in. Okay, I'm not hearing anybody chiming in, and I will point out that it's already 1:30 Eastern time, so we've been on the call now for about 90 minutes. I know that's an awful lot to ask during this busy time, so I just want to put it out there again. If there's anything that anybody else would like to share about what your program is doing, what any of your successes are, and if your continued concerns are, just anything at all that you'd like to share, please go ahead, or questions of one another. Otherwise, we will make this conversation available, and I would encourage you to go back and review it, because there were certainly a ton of great ideas that were shared, and all sorts of leads on solutions and ideas. So would anybody like to share anything else? Okay, I would just point everybody to the chat box. We've got a couple of folks that have shared things there. Martina, you had asked a question of me, and I don't know that I have an answer, so maybe I could ask the entire group. What kind of tablets or programs purchasing for virtual instruction? Do folks want to chime in on that real quick before we adjourn?
John, this is Christy. We've purchased a Samsung tablet with a hard case to go along with that. So that's kind of where we're at. I don't know like the model and all that, but it's just a typical Samsung tablet. It was on the district's bid list.
Yeah, and Chris Holliday is sharing that Ignite sells their own tablets and they're from Hatch. So I would encourage folks to take a look at the chat box. I know Jessica Coffey shared some information a little while ago about Wi-Fi on school buses. There's a good link there for people to follow, and some other information here. But again, this will be available on our YouTube channel, and hopefully it will be up this afternoon, and I'll be able to share a link with you. With that, I would ask, are there any other questions or concerns? Christy, anything else from you?
No, nothing at this time. Again, I really appreciate everybody taking the time to hop on and share information. I think that's the best way that we learn and improve and provide services to our community. So thank you, everybody.
Yeah, definitely one of our most interactive calls that we've had of late. So hopefully this can become a useful tool for folks going forward. So with that, we will adjourn and we'll make this available to everyone. I hope you all have a great week, and we'll be in touch about our next Zoom session. Thank you all so much. Have a good one.